Does it ever strike you that the pursuit of power in Washington, D.C. is maybe less about public service and more, I don't know, like a constant climb?
Climbing some invisible ladder, perhaps. It's a fascinating dynamic.
Exactly. So today we're kind of navigating that world influence, ambition, what really makes the Capitol tick. We're drawing on quite a few observations here.
And trying to get a nuanced understanding.
Right. And for some perspective, we're also looking at insights from Mindful Moments. That's a YouTube channel doing AI book analysis. Really makes you think critically about complex stuff like this.
It's a great resource for reflection.
So let's start with this idea. What's actually fueling that drive in D.C.? One thought is that it's like a gold rush town.
But not for gold, obviously. More
Yeah.
like wealth, maybe fame, the next big opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. That constant search for the next act. Self-branding seems, well, rampant.
It really does. And this gold rush idea, it sort of changes what success even means there, doesn't it?
How so?
Well, traditional measures, maybe long-term impact, they can take a backseat to just immediate gains. Status. Visibility. Right now.
You see that even in surprising places, right? Like Tim Russert's memorial service.
Oh, absolutely. The accounts suggest it became this, intense networking opportunity.
It's quite striking. Robert Gibbs, Joe Scarborough, Mika Brzezinski, apparently just mobbed.
Yeah, people looking for connections even then.
Mika Brzezinski apparently called it a funereal hustle. A new low, she said.
Yeah.
But also admitted you kind of had to be part of the conversation.
Which highlights that constant pressure, doesn't it? Not just to be there, but to actively, use the situation, seize the moment.
But why? Why that relentless need to connect, to advance? Is there a more positive way to look at it?
Well, you could argue it comes from a genuine desire to contribute, maybe, to have an impact.
Okay. In a city focused on national issues, maybe people feel they need to be positioned to make a difference.
Exactly. But the intensity we see, it suggests that the visibility of that influence, the personal brand, gets tangled up with the impact itself.
Like becoming a pundit is seen as the peak of journalism now, rather than just reporting.
That's a good example, yeah. The analysis and opinion become the main thing.
And this hunt for visibility, it seems to blur the lines, doesn't it, between the different groups?
Journalists, politicians, lobbyists, they all seem to be playing in the same arena.
Where being known, being recognized, that's the real currency.
Right. Think about the Me Wall concept photos with famous D.C. people.
Or how someone like Tim Russert became almost as famous, maybe more famous, than the people he interviewed.
It creates this shared focus on fame, on being a known commodity.
So how does that shared focus shape how people interact there?
You could say it builds a kind of common language. Everyone understands the game, the importance of being seen, of networking.
Even if their jobs are technically different.
Right. And that might actually make connections easier, maybe even collaborations across the usual divide.
Like the revolving door thing. People moving between government, media, lobbying.
Exactly. That's a prime example of how interconnected it all is. Russert's career really bridged those worlds.
And the reaction when he passed away. Statements from everyone. It really showed how significant those networks are.
It did. It underlines the importance of those interwoven relationships.
It feels like there's this constant pressure to climb that ladder, to get into the inner ring.
Ah, the C.S. Lewis idea, that desire for exclusive belonging.
Yeah. Is there anything positive about wanting to be in the know like that?
Well, maybe it fosters a sense of shared purpose for those inside. If you feel you're at the center of things, you might be more invested.
Could lead to intense collaboration, maybe trying harder to produce quality work.
Potentially. But the flip side is that exclusivity. It can easily create an us versus them kind of feeling.
Which might be why people outside D.C. sometimes see it as, insincere, like everyone's just play acting.
That perception is definitely out there. But Insider Washington itself has gotten so much bigger, it's harder to avoid.
How has that growth changed things?
More people competing for a spot in those circles, basically. It might open things up a bit, but it also just ramps up the competition for attention.
And online platforms, they just amplify individual brands even more now.
Right. New ways to become famous for Washington.
People sometimes compare D.C. to high school with all the cliques and jockeying for status.
It's a common analogy, yeah. But the big difference is people don't really leave.
Right. They stick around, they adapt, figure out how to leverage their D.C. experience.
And, that constant networking, it does build a pretty skilled community. People learn how to navigate really complex situations, communication, negotiation.
Developing valuable skills. even if it's within that specific bubble.
And those long-term relationships can create a certain stability, too.
Okay, let's talk about that term, suck-up city. That sounds pretty harsh.
It does. But maybe there's more to it than just, simple sycophancy.
Like Obama's experience with those local activists in New Hampshire? Or someone like Bob Barnett?
Right. Barnett plays all sides, connects with everyone. You could see that as just being adaptable, skilled at relationship building in that specific environment.
Understanding how the web works, basically.
Yeah.
Not just flattering people.
And Obama's story shows that tension, right, between outsider ideals and the reality of dealing with the established players.
Even his administration, which started out tough on lobbyists.
Ended up making compromises, issuing waivers. The system itself has a powerful pull.
Is there a positive function to that established system, though, with all the lobbyists and insiders?
Well, they do possess a lot of institutional knowledge. They understand the processes. Engaging with them can provide useful insights, help get things done practically.
Even if it means bending a bit on initial promises.
Sometimes, yeah. Pragmatism often kicks in.
It's funny how even when huge national crises are happening, D.C. can seem obsessed with really trivial stuff.
Like the hottest White House employee contest, or Peter Orszag's Diet Coke habit making the Wall Street Journal.
Yeah, what's that about?
Maybe it humanizes these powerful figures a bit. Makes them seem less abstract, more relatable, even if it's superficial.
Or just a way to distract from the serious stuff for a minute, a shared inside joke.
Could be that too. In a high-pressure place, maybe those little things offer a release.
And this interconnectedness, it definitely includes the media. Yeah. You mentioned Arianna Huffington having that Russert Watch feature.
Right, or someone like Tammy Haddad, whose whole thing seems to be connecting the successful and up-and-coming.
Always wanting to be around power and influence.
It highlights that really close loop between media figures and political players.
Are there positive sides to those connections?
Well, it can certainly help information flow. Journalists get access, get insights they might not otherwise.
And people like Haddad, maybe they help foster some dialogue between different groups.
Possibly. Even if the motivation is partly about being central to it all, it can still serve that connecting function.
This seems like a good point to mention mindful moments again, and our related discussions here. They really do offer good ways to analyze these kinds of social dynamics.
Definitely worth exploring for a deeper understanding.
So the rise of online political news, Politico, Mike Allen's playbook, that's changed the game too, hasn't it?
Oh, massively. Playbook especially. It's often described as driving the daily conversation in Washington.
Setting the agenda for the day, almost?
Pretty much. It creates this central reference point. Everyone reads it, knows what the buzz is.
Which, I suppose, can make sure everyone's on the same page about key issues. Helps the dialogue.
It can, yeah. And sometimes that pack journalism focus ensures important stories get wide coverage.
But you also hear about White House folks getting annoyed with Politico's focus on palace intrigue.
Right. There's that tension between wanting to control the story and this intense media scrutiny of every little internal dynamic.
Can that tension actually be useful?
Maybe as a check and balance. Media scrutiny, even if it feels intrusive or focused on the wrong things sometimes, it can hold people accountable.
Makes them more aware of their actions, their image?
Potentially. And then there was that surprising detail about Mike Allen's father.
Oh, yeah. Holding far-right beliefs. Quite a contrast.
It's a reminder, isn't it, that even within the establishment core, you find these diverse backgrounds and perspectives.
And maybe those different backgrounds actually add something positive, bring unique insights.
Could do. Different life experiences, different viewpoints, they can lead to richer, more nuanced discussions if people are willing to engage.
What about journalists who really push back, though? Who challenge the establishment? Like Michael Hastings.
Ah, yes. The reaction to his work definitely showed a kind of circling the wagons mentality within parts of the media.
Protecting the club.
You could see it that way. But is there a positive angle to that solidarity? Maybe protecting press freedom? Supporting tough reporting?
The idea of the reputable journalist implies certain standards, I guess. Ethics, accuracy, that's important.
It serves a vital function, maintaining credibility. But it can also be used to exclude those who don't play by the unwritten rules.
Let's talk about the White House Correspondents' Dinner. That's transformed, hasn't it? It's this huge celebrity gala now.
It really has. Less about the correspondents, more about politicians and Hollywood stars.
Can we see that in a positive light somehow?
Well, it does bring people from different worlds together. Politics, media, entertainment, all mingling informally.
Creates connections that might not happen otherwise.
Possibly. And all the attention it gets, maybe it highlights the press's role, even if the focus gets a bit glitzy.
And even people who seem like opponents, politically. They might end up in business together later, right?
Absolutely. Like that bipartisan lobbying firm, Quinn Gillespie and Associates. A Republican and a Democrat teaming up.
What's the positive function there? Besides making money, obviously.
Well, those kinds of bipartisan ventures, they can actually help find common ground in a really polarized city.
People from different sides working together might lead to more practical solutions.
It can facilitate compromise, yeah.
But
Build consensus where it's hard to find otherwise.
despite all the cynicism we hear about Washington, there's that line from Jack Quinn, something like, everyone involved is a patriot.
Right. How do you view that positively?
Well, maybe it suggests a basic belief underneath it all that the work matters for the country, a dedication, even if people disagree fiercely on how to serve it.
A shared sense of purpose, perhaps, despite the different methods or motivations?
Things definitely shifted when big money really arrived in D.C. and politics became this huge industry. Cable news fueled that, too.
That accelerated things massively. But were there any positive developments alongside that?
More resources, maybe? More attention on policy, more analysis.
You could argue that.
Yeah.
More sophisticated communication, maybe more focus on the impact of decisions. And more media platforms means more potential for different voices.
We also see people moving from politics into media roles, like Chris Matthews, using it to build their brand.
Or the Madeline Carville brand Madaville, merging political and media personas for commercial success.
Is there an upside to that?
Well, people with actual political experience, they can bring real first-hand knowledge to the commentary.
Help the public understand complex political stuff better.
That's the idea. They can analyze events from an insider's perspective, which can be valuable, even if selling books or getting TV gigs is part of it.
And now that permanent establishment in D.C., it includes a lot more media figures, right? Often younger, more digital focused.
Definitely. They're often very skilled at using new platforms, reaching different audiences.
So they bring a different energy, maybe challenge some of the old ways.
You can bring fresh perspectives, yeah. And they understand how to disseminate information and spark discussion online very effectively.
So reflecting on all this, Washington's power dynamics, the ambition, the influence, it's this constantly churning ecosystem.
It really is. Always evolving.
And looking at it makes you think about similar dynamics elsewhere, maybe in our own workplaces or communities. What are the positive forces driving people to connect and seek status in those areas? It's something to consider.
Absolutely. Understanding Washington, even its flaws, can offer real insights into human behavior and influence more broadly.
Some really fascinating points to mull over. To keep exploring these kinds of ideas, definitely subscribe so you catch our future discussions.
And if you found this useful, please share it with others who might be interested.
You can also find links to further resources and ways to support this analysis in the description.
And most importantly, as always, keep thinking critically about the forces shaping our world.